What would make this an especially meaningful conversation for you today?
Um, to furthermore talk about the LSAT, law applications, stuff like that.
Sure. What are some of the biggest struggles you're facing right now?
My biggest struggle, so right now I've kind of recently just complete my resume, my personal statement. Right now, my biggest struggle is my LSAT.
Okay. What about the LSATs giving you trouble? How long have you been studying for?
I've been studying since June timeframe, and I took it in September. I think what's getting me down is now they're switched to these digital testing sites. So when I do practice tests, I was scoring 156, 157, and I went to the digital exam September and my tablet malfunctioned.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was awful. So that kind of discouraged me for a while, actually. And I took the whole month of October off and I wanted to get back into it for November. So that's it's like no matter how hard you try, it's always something to stick you. And that's kind of what got me.
Yeah, I hear you. There's definitely a lot of obstacles in the digital LSAT. The malfunctions are definitely yet another one. But have you tried practicing on a tablet at all?
I tried practicing on my computer, my desktop, but not a tablet, no.
Do you have a tablet or is there one you can borrow from somebody?
I do not, but I'm looking into getting one, definitely.
One option you might consider is the Amazon Fire HD10 because it's only about $150.
Okay.
And Amazon has a good return policy, so you could always return it later if you decide that you don't like it or don't want to keep it post LSAT. But that could be a good way for you to play around with the digital LSAT familiarization tool and get a sense of what the different features are like.
Gotcha. I'll try that.
What's your next upcoming LSAT test date?
November 25th.
Nice. Okay, so it's just a couple weeks away.
Right.
What are you doing right now to prep?
Kind of minimum on my own. I started before on my own and I didn't see any results. So my score, I started really low in the beginning and a year ago, and then I stopped and I started back this year. So I've been seeing increases in my score.
That's good. I just want to encourage you to do a lot more on your own because the timing class is only the tip of the iceberg. You got to take what you get in class and apply it to the practice tests themselves. And the nice thing is that LSAC publishes nearly 100 released exams, extremely useful because they'll help you see the patterns underlying the exam. So if you learn something in class about how to approach a particular question type, you then want to do several dozen questions of that type to solidify your understanding of what they're asking for.
Correct.
So I'd encourage you to do more of that. And then also I want to ask you, how many full-length timed exams have you done?
Wow. I've done about maybe 10, 9 or 10, I think.
And were they timed strictly?
Yes, they were.
Good. Okay, so that'll help you prepare more fully for test day in terms of the pacing and endurance elements as well.
Correct.
Now, how many hours a week would you say that you're able to study on your own?
I study maybe 5 or 6 hours a day. So multiply that by what? 7. It's a lot.
That is a lot of hours. Wow. So you are doing a lot on your own.
Yeah, for the most part.
Good. Good. So when you study, what does it look like? Do you crack open a book and where do you begin? Do you have any kind of plan?
I'll do the questions. I'll do those timed. I'll do a section. And I start from there.
Good.
And I'll review whatever I get wrong and solidify it for the next time.
And what does your review process look like?
Review process, primarily reading over the correct, if I got it wrong, I'll read over the correct question, read their reasoning, and I'll try to understand why they feel this is correct and apply it next time. If I got it right, if I got the question correct, I'll go back and try to solidify why I knew that was the correct answer.
Good. Good. And do you ever talk about the ones you got wrong or write out your own explanations?
Oh, yes. Sometimes. If I understand theirs, I won't. But if I don't, I'll go back and try to figure out, okay, this was right because of this.
Good. Yeah, I want to encourage you to do that as much as possible. And you mentioned study groups. This review process would be a great thing to do in a study group where you actually explain the problems to each other. And you talk about the stimulus in your own words, like paraphrasing it for yourself, and then talking about what was tempting about the wrong answer that made you pick it and what ultimately makes it wrong. And what's discouraging about the right answer that pushes you away from it and what ultimately makes it correct. You really got to puzzle over these things. And if you read the explanation and say, I get it, and move on, you might actually get it, but you might not really get it. And you just feel like you get it in that moment. But an hour later, you might lose it all, right?
That's definitely true. I've done that before in the beginning.
No, it happens to everybody. But if you lose it after an hour, you never really had it in the first place. You got to be able to explain it in your own words and not just rereading the stimulus or rereading the explanation, but actually using different words to explain the same concept, because that's how you prove that you really have it internally.
Gotcha.
So are there any particular question types or sections that give you trouble, or things like pacing? What do you say is the biggest struggle?
The biggest struggle right now is reading comp. That is
Okay. And how are you approaching it right now?
Right now, I'm currently, when I get a passage, I'll break it up by paragraphs. And I'll usually summarize that paragraph in my own words when I get done reading what that means. And then I go to the paragraph 2, what that means. And I go to paragraph 3, what that means. And overall, I'll have different summaries. I'll have different summaries for however many paragraphs it is. And so I won't keep flipping back between the questions. And that's where I lose time. I flip back between the section and the questions. And that eats away at my time. So I try to create these summary blocks and then just go into the questions. This is going great for right now. I forget average on 16 questions correct, but I want to definitely increase.
Sure. So you're a lot of flipping back and forth. Are you even doing that for the main idea and primary purpose questions?
No, not the main idea and primary, just like inference questions. They have a few weekend questions in there, stuff like that.
Well, flipping back is okay, but I want to make sure that before you get into the questions, you at least have a good idea of what the main idea is, what the author's opinion is, and then where to go in the passage to find things when you need them.
Gotcha.
Now, on the digital LSAT, you can't really write on the passage itself. And the highlighting and underlining tools, do you use those at all?
That kind of, sometimes I use the highlighter, and then on the scratch paper, I'll write on the scratch paper what I think the summary for those passages. That's what I do on the scratch paper.
Good. Yeah, I'd suggest keeping most of it on the scratch paper because, as you know, digital LSAT malfunctions, you can't really count on the highlighter.
Yeah, you cannot. You can't count on scrolling either. Mine got stuck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Did you complain to LSAC or did you cancel your score? What did you end up doing?
This was the crazy situation. So I took it, I took it September 21st, right? And that day when it happened, I filed the complaint on the website, the email that you send. And it took them till October 29th to send me a response back. Luckily, I already registered for the November one, but if I was to wait on them, I clearly would have missed the November deadline. So they sent me an email saying, well, we're sorry, it's our fault, and we only give you 2 options. You can either cancel it or release it, but I don't know my score, which kind of made me very anxious because I didn't know what I was canceling or what I was releasing. So ultimately, I chose to just cancel the score, and they gave me a free registration for January. That was the end result.
That's typically the best they'll do for you, unfortunately, which just puts you right back where you started, but you have to study them a little more. Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think you probably made the right move. If you were having trouble scrolling, that's a huge issue, obviously, and that would waste your time, right?
And selecting answers. The pen wouldn't even select answers, nor my finger. So, I mean, I'm in the test group just beating at the tablet. It was pretty bad.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's another malfunction. The stylus is malfunction a lot. And sometimes they even forgot to bring the stylus. So, yeah, use your finger. You can count on your finger. That'll work.
The finger didn't even work either.
No?
No, finger didn't work. I'm beating with my finger.
Well, that's a busted tablet. Jeez.
It was. And I had to switch tablets just for that not to work either. So.
Well, fingers crossed it doesn't happen again in the future.
Fingers crossed.
And yeah, I'd also say be prepared for the possibility, of course, that something could go wrong. If it does, it's not like a 1 in a million. It's unfortunately more like maybe 1 in 10, 1 in 100. I don't know. But it happens. It's happening fairly often, although I expect that with time, the errors will get less and less. So maybe November should be less than October. January should be less than November, just because you would expect they're going to improve with time.
You would expect that, but it's kind of, we're on a crunch schedule here for
Hmm.
scholarships, applications, and it's like you guys are hindering our application process with these tablets. It's kind of discouraging at the same point because you study all this time just to get in there and whoop, the tablet don't work, but hey, you can take it again. So
Yeah, no, it's absolutely inexcusable that they rolled this out so quickly with so many issues. It's like they were rushing to catch up with the GRE folks who've been digital for years and years.
exactly. And that's something you can't rush.
No.
Applications are depending on it. Money is depending on it. Like, no.
Hmm. Yeah, no, but you are where you are. And the good news is that even just getting a couple points more on the LSAT will outweigh any delay in your application.
Yep.
Applying early matters much less than it used to. And even just getting a single point more could be worth delaying your application by a month or two.
Correct.
So if you end up a couple points higher in November, or you take it in January, you get a few points higher, then still it's worth the wait. Law schools are deferring a lot of applicants anyway. They're waitlisting them because they want to see who else comes along.
Gotcha.
So they want that score, that number is what really matters in the end.
Gotcha. That's understandable as well.
But it sounds like you're doing all the right things. You're putting in the time on your own. You're in the course. You have the study group. You're doing everything you should be.
Thank you. I try. It's been a journey.
Yeah, of course. And just make sure that the study groups, you're getting the most out of them, that everyone's contributing something, and that you're all coming in prepared, ready to go. Everyone's pulling their weight, and you're really making the most of the time discussing the problems. You might have, let's say there's 5 people in the group. You could each prepare 5 questions that you want to cover together.
Correct.
And then 5 times 5, 25. That could take you 3 to 4 hours at least if you're really discussing them in depth.
Correct. That's true.
Awesome, Adriana. So what would you say is the biggest insight you got from our call today?
Insight would be to make sure that I'm actually fully understanding each question and not, well, I'm not doing it anyway, but make sure I'm fully understanding each question, because an hour later, make sure you can actually do it again as well to make sure it's actually stick in your mind.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, it's been great connecting with you. Please keep in touch and let me know if I can help in any way as you move forward.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.